This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Mysteries, yet another episode where we are your hosts. I'm Alexis.
I'm Grace.
And we are here after celebrating the fun month of Halloween. We now have another fun month of November. Apparently, like the last quarter of the year is just like a dope part of the year, in my opinion, because it gives us 3 months in a row to celebrate some of the best holidays. Notably, in November, we have personally my favorite holiday, not for its historical significance, but for what it means to us today, Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And so, Grace, I don't know how much you like Thanksgiving, whether it's your favorite holiday or not, or whether it's just like, it's another one.
No,
it's here.
We love Thanksgiving in this household.
Yes. Wait, we have talked about this briefly before.
Was
like
it just
connecting our love for
or
Bob's Burgers?
Yeah, or
I think it's both.
Air?
I think it was on this podcast and like off whatever as well. But yes, IRL, tying it into our Bob's Burgers love. Yeah.
Yep. We have a Bob's Burgers Thanksgiving episode marathon. We basically have like a open house for all of our friends and their friends to come over, and as long as they bring a dish, they can come on over. We cook all day. Turned away. Yeah, get out of here. We cook all day. It's our favorite. So many leftovers. The dogs love this holiday because we don't give them human food, but on Thanksgiving they get some sweet potatoes. They get turkey. One time, Diorite stole an entire turkey leg from a counter, and no one caught him.
Wait. Was this from your house or was this from another person? Was this?
This was back in like Utah. We had like 10 people over. There was like 6 dogs in the house. And Dyer, it's a pretty big dog, so his head can reach the counter. And he never like takes food from places. Like he doesn't steal food, but it was just chaotic enough that we were all in the living room, super full. And what's more impressive is he went up to the edge of the counter, stole the entire turkey leg, managed to walk it through the living room with, again, like 10 people, multiple other dogs, into like what was our TV room back when we lived in Utah, devoured it. And it was only when I saw one of our friends' dogs, who was like Diorite's like frenemy, aka they like truly did not like each other and they sometimes would fight, and it wasn't great. But anyways, we got a trauma boy here. And I know, sweet baby. But I like looked into the TV room, and this other dog is just standing there staring. And I was like, that's weird. Where's Dio? Is shit about to go down? And then I go in and I turn on the light, and Dio just has the bone and is like whacking his tail. And like this other dog's like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, he was so proud. He did not get in trouble that day. He was so proud of himself.
The frenemy status grew 10 times that day. Like, you're not even gonna fucking share. Staring at him in the dark.
Yeah, truly. Dio's like, do something about it. Anyway, so my dogs also love Thanksgiving.
Amazing. I was gonna say, all this is to say that the love for Thanksgiving isn't just from me and Grace, and also I assume Justin, but also the doggos. And as such, because that holiday is so loved, at least in the Saturday Morning Mysteries fam, we were like, hey, let's do the same thing we did with October, and let's do a whole month of episodes only based on Thanksgiving. So turns out there's like a lot of cartoon like Thanksgiving specials that we came across. We're gonna kind of flip it and add our little bit of spice to this.
What shows have Thanksgiving crimes happening is the question.
Exactly. So it can't just be about Thanksgiving in general, because this is a cartoon crime comedy podcast. So instead, the theme of this month, I'm going to try not to laugh. I'm already laughing saying it.
Because we think we're really clever and funny.
We think we're really clever and fucking hilarious. Exactly. That's why anyone listens to this podcast. This month, we're going to be talking about the crimes of the Pilgrims.
So basically, how we came to this point was, indeed, as Alexis said, we were like Thanksgiving themed. And then it was like Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving. There ain't no crime happening there. It's all feel good stuff.
And right. And suddenly... weird dancing. That is the crime. That's the crime.
The dance moves of these children. Yeah. And then we were like, how do we make this crimeable? how do we crimey it up? And then we were like,
how do we
the biggest criminals of all.
Oh, the settlers.
The settlers. I mean,
yeah.
We'll get into it.
Exactly. There's going to be, it'll be fun. It'll be this is maybe going to be our most, dare I say, based month of this podcast. I feel like, we either are going to like get a lot of lovers of this theme or a lot of haters, and I'm here for it. I live for your hatred.
It fuels us.
It fuels me. Yes.
But even more so, how we're doing this is because a lot of these things are specials or movies, is we each chose a special or movie and are splitting it into 2 parts. So I'll do the first 2 weekends of November, covering part 1 and part 2 of something. And then Alexis will do 2 in a row as well. Yes, the last 2 covering similar or another show, cartoon, et cetera, a part 1 and part 2. So also changing that up because, again, no rules.
Yeah.
We can do what we want.
Can do whatever we want. And we actually checked the calendar this time around, guys. There are only 4 Saturdays in
we did it.
November. So this is going to work out smashingly if I do say so myself. And I am very, very excited. I think Grace and I briefly discussed a few movies that we may do. I'm not entirely sure which one she's doing today, though. I think I might know, but I don't know if you changed your mind. So I'm awesome. Okay. So I kind of know, but I haven't seen this actually.
Yes. This was something that Alexis saw, like what do you see? Like it was like on a list and you just saw like the screen grab of it or something.
Yeah. And the moment I saw the picture, I just like showed it to Grace and I was like, I've never heard of this movie. I've never seen it, but the picture, like the thumbnail image that they used to talk about it in the article was so fucking hilarious that I was like, someone has to do this. Like this looks like Pilgrim crimes in the making in action.
Yeah, this is a crime scene photo, really.
Yeah.
Is what you found.
Exactly. So to that end, Grace, take it away and let's start talking about some
crimes with the Pilgrims.
Yes. Pilgrims, part 1.
Part 1. So today I will be covering something that I had also not seen. Hanna-Barbera's 1972 TV film holiday special entitled The Thanksgiving That Almost Wasn't. So, Alexis.
Yes.
I, as you know, usually say I'm so thrilled about the episodes that I'm going to tell you about today. But today, honestly, I'm full of a lot of emotions about it because there's so much to unpack in this episode, including obviously the deeply whitewashed history of Thanksgiving in America, which we will be getting into. And I do want to say that, like all things we do on this show, we're going to try and bring some humor into the madness and, bring some realness as well. And so I want to start off on that note with the latter of those things, blowing the top off of some myths around Thanksgiving, because this film went straight into the truth of Thanksgiving, even though the rest of it was very untruthful. Are you ready for this?
I hope.
Truth bomb. So, did you know, according to this special, that the holiday of Thanksgiving that we know and love and celebrate today wouldn't even be in existence if it weren't for one thing? That thing, you ask?
What
squirrel.
Is that thing?
A squirrel named Jeremy. Yes, it's true.
I think there was a footnote about that in our history textbooks.
Jeremy the squirrel is why we have
Jeremy.
Thanksgiving today.
Wow. Okay. Oh boy. This
I know.
Okay.
Big truth bombs this episode. Buckle up.
My whole worldview is shattered, Grace. What have we done?
But before we get to Jeremy, let's meet our characters in this show and how they came together. And throughout this episode and the next one, I'll be switching back and forth between the show's depictions and actual history. So stay with me here. We begin our story both in my retelling of it and in the episode itself. In 1620, in what is modern day Massachusetts, with the peoples who, prior to the arrival of white Europeans, numbered between 30,000 to 100,000. And collectively, these peoples made up and I'm probably going to mispronounce this as I do things every single episode. So
we're not
apologize.
Experts.
Yes. The Wampanoag Nation. I definitely said that wrong, and I'm sorry.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it differently every time because
oh gosh, oh boy,
because I can't pronounce things ever. And obviously on a flag, like there's obviously like specific breakdowns and tribes within the nation, but I'll be referring to it kind of as a whole. So these native peoples can trace their history back at least 10,000 years prior to Europeans' arrivals, and throughout this whole region, kind of what is now New England, the heavily forested land was where they were able to hunt deer and elk and bear and fish for trout, and were able to cultivate the land with agriculture. Meanwhile, 10,000 years later, after they've been here for the whole time, in November of 1620, the shores of now modern day America were being greeted by the infamous Mayflower. This ship made its way over from England. The one, you know it, you love it, the Mayflower. I wanted to come out on stage, like Razzle Dazzle style. Like big lights coming down. Mayflower.
It's just funny. I've never heard someone describe the Mayflower as infamous, and it's so appropriate. I don't. Yeah, that we need to like make this more. This needs to be the normal way to talk about
the infamous ship.
I guess it depends on your ancestry. I'm sure actually a good percentage of the country does call it infamous.
Yeah, I guess we won't blame the ship on what happened next.
The ship was innocent. It was just floating around. It was the people steering it.
And that's the message I'm here to say today. Yes. Stop blaming the Mayflower on what happened. It was the people, not the object, damn it. Anyways, so this ship made its way over from England with 102 passengers and about 30 crew members. And this gang on the ship is now known as the Pilgrims. And they were trying to get the heck out of England to find religious freedom from the Church of England. I didn't get into more of why they needed freedom from it. Like,
there's
I don't think
a lot going on over there with the Anglican Church, and there's like, a lot. We're not a religious
Catholicism podcast thrown in. I was like, no, next 3 lines, that's fine. Needed religious freedom, because I will say the actual show like shows a little Mayflower like on the map and straight up says like they were trying to find religious freedom in America. So that's all they said too. So
that's all they say. Yeah. Okay. That's all that happened then.
And so they arrived on the shores of, again, what is now modern day Massachusetts, right before winter started in November. And they were not ready for that shit. If you've been to New England in the winter, it can be pretty heavy and humid. Like it gets icy, it gets pretty snowy. I don't know that much about England's weather besides like it's rainy most of the time, I guess. Yeah. But like they don't get like winter storms like they do in
not like up north here.
Yeah, exactly. So
they probably thought they were like going to some tropical land, like wearing like
heard of this
shorts
Cuba
and
place.
Tank tops,
Hawaiian shirts and like fanny packs. We're ready, baby.
Oh my god, what the fuck is this?
Not sign up for this. So our show begins here with a heavily edited version of how the Pilgrims arrive. And in the show, the undisclosed native peoples, they do not say anything or depict them in any like specific way. There's a lot of stereotyping that happens in this show. Came out in 1972. I've even debated whether or not we show pictures from the show on our YouTube clip, because it's grim. Just as a warning if anyone goes to watch this. But in the show, apparently the Pilgrims pull up to shore. They go through winter, by the way, in song form. There's a lot of songs that happen.
It's a musical, not quite, or just like
only selectively.
Okay.
I would say
it's a kids movie. They just throw a lot of music in.
Yeah. It didn't feel surprising that there was music in it, I would say.
Okay.
But that also is a deeply offensive part of this show, is that they were clearly trying to make Thanksgiving songs, which that's not a thing. There's not Thanksgiving. There's Halloween music, Christmas music. There's one Thanksgiving song, which is Alice's Restaurant, and there's nothing in between. So they were trying to make it happen. Did not catch on. So
wow, I'm going to make a Thanksgiving song now just to spite you.
Podcast is over. I quit.
Damn.
Anyways, so how the show depicted it is the Pilgrims just show up, and the native peoples were like, hey, what's up, welcome, good luck. And like it was just, they were just there hanging out on shore waiting for people to show up.
The welcome party.
Yeah, exactly. But the show does say, and this is true, that the Pilgrims did not do well that winter. Out of the just over 100 English that arrived, only 53 survived the New England winter.
Wow.
Yeah, which I did not know.
Wait, did the movie say this, or this is what you?
I got the actual number from the interwebs, but the movie did song form them being like, it's so hard to survive here in winter, and then it straight up shows like a mourning party and like a coroner, like you don't see the full body, but like putting a blanket over someone's face.
Fuck, and they're still like singing in the background.
Yeah, they're like, religious freedom, at least we're not in England.
At least he died with religious freedom.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
So yes. And both again in real life and the film, it was after these harsh winter months in which half the English population just straight up fucking died upon their arrival through diseases, not being able to cultivate the land. I'm sure the fact that it was snowing fucking everywhere and they were not ready for it, et cetera, et cetera. That the I'm gonna say it wrong again. Try harder this time. Wampanoags saw these pitiful white people dying left and right, and the movie says that it was out of the goodness of their hearts that they stepped in to try and help these white people cultivate their land and navigate the woods.
Mm-hmm.
No, in reality,
not debating the kind heart part, but I think there was a little more than that.
Being like, yes, let us help you take over this land, is how kind of like the show puts it. But in reality, they'd actually been in contact with white Europeans since about 1524. Pardon me. And now there was some trade back and forth. But as you could probably assume, it was not the friendliest of histories. Not to point fingers on who was the aggressor, but every single finger is pointing. Yeah. Because, for example, only a handful of years before the Mayflower arrived, some white dude, European, I didn't write his name down, invited some of the native peoples onto his ship to see what he had to trade. So a good amount of them went on the ship to, look at the goods. Mm-hmm. And then he proceeded to kidnap them and sail back to Europe and sell them as slaves in Spain. So, not a great history.
Fraud, first crime. Well, not the first crime, but
the first explicitly named
case.
Crime.
Exactly. We've got a classic case of fraud here, guys, and kidnapping. Probably some assault in there as well. Yeah, just the first of the crimes of the Pilgrims.
The first noted crime of the Pilgrims.
Yeah.
Precisely. They did not say that crime in the show, I will say.
No, of course not. They probably said like they took a diplomatic mission back to Spain.
Anyway, so the increasing contact that was leading up to the arrival of the Mayflower, did things like bring European diseases, which decimated kind of a lot of the native peoples throughout New England, multiple nations, but including it now in God damn it, I can't ever say it. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. The second time you said it sounded good.
Wampanoag. Oh, see, I said it differently again.
The most important thing is the effort, in my opinion.
I'm trying so hard.
Spoken as not a Native American.
I know. That's why I'm like, I'm so sorry that I'm absolutely fucking this up.
We do truly apologize. We are trying.
Yes. And I'm going to say some names in a little bit, and I strictly know that I will mess them up. But we'll repeat them like 12 times in trying to say it once. Anyways, in this history, this, again, just before the Mayflower arrived, was known as the Great Dying, because that's how many of their peoples were dying from disease, possibly smallpox or yellow fever, which was a fave of Europeans to bring over. So in the spring of 1620, after the winter that killed off half those pilgrims, the contact that was made was actually a strategic move. So despite the disease and harm done by the Europeans, most of the Wampanoag peoples had also died, again, from the Great Dying, and they needed a strong front next to a neighboring native peoples. And from a few of my sources, which I'll note at the very end of this first episode, because there's a couple of them, noted that basically the reasoning was from the chief, or the sachem, I think is how you pronounce like what the chief is called, at the time, noted that these white people probably brought powerful weapons with them, aka guns, aka they'd been in contact with them for so long that they knew that they were bringing some guns over and stuff, and therefore would be pretty good allies to have on their side against really anyone else who they didn't necessarily get along with. So they stepped in and connected with the Pilgrims, indeed teaching them how to survive on this land. Again, creating an allyship-ish there.
In classic American fashion, based on arms.
And that's when America truly became America. Said, yes. Oh, you want our weapons? Cool.
Cool. Boom.
Our most tried and true tradition to this day.
Right. Our greatest exports are entertainment and weapons.
And this story had both. So razzle dazzle, Mayflower.
Mayflower. Sorry, I just imagined, because this is a very quick tangent. The Bob's Burgers episode with the Thanksgiving play is my absolute favorite episode of like Bob's Burgers. And so I just imagine, what if we did like we wrote a Thanksgiving musical and just like had a paper mache Mayflower that were like.
But I want like Pilgrim, like Rockettes, and like native people's Rockettes.
Yeah, like Rockettes, like interchangeably, like Pilgrim, Native,
canning, like
together. Yeah.
100%.
Anyway, sorry, back to your story.
I would listen to that Thanksgiving soundtrack.
Yeah.
If we wrote it.
If we wrote it. It wouldn't be good otherwise.
No, definitely not. So it's in the fall of 1621 where our story truly begins, after that long intro by me and the show itself, which the show kind of gave 2 seconds. Actually, my intro is much longer than the show's. The show was just like, the Pilgrims wanted religious freedom, so they came over. Winter was hard. Again, coroner over the dead person's face. And then they became friends with the native peoples, and they helped each other out. So we start our show in the woods nearby the settlement of Plymouth, where one of our characters, little Johnny Cook, who's a pilgrim, is off to go play in the forest, leaving his mother behind, probably like working herself to death in the kitchen. And his dad, we don't know where he is. There's a lot of, I want to say, kind of funny not funny because it's like, this would not slide in 2022, but I'm like, wow, the 70s were a fucking wild time of just like women were only cooking this entire show and being like, don't go into the woods, it's scary out there, and men being like, it will be fine, Martha, and like
it's like no wild. Matter what, there's like a town hall meeting and a woman's like stirring her pot at the town hall meeting.
I wish that wasn't the case, but like straight up, they're always fucking cooking. Anyways, So Johnny Cook again, who, by the way, is, and they actually say in the show, the son of Francis Cook, who was actually a pilgrim, who came over on the Mayflower and did have a son eventually named John. So that's just a fun little, like, here's our nod to white history only. We will not do any of this research for the native history. Anyways, this episode's a journey. So little Johnny's going off into the woods because he loves to go play hunter. So he's got like a little makeshift gun, which is just like, a little stick that he carved. And he's got like a little, like, strap to carry it around. And he hopes to be a great hunter one day. And is off to a good start in proving this as he goes into the woods and he starts hearing a turkey. And so he starts to like make the turkey call back and forth with it. And just as he leaps over a log, which actually is like, that's not good hunting because the animal is just gonna run away if you jump and scare
like, hear
it. But
you.
Yeah, but like I think he's supposed to be like 8 or something. So
okay, he's learning. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's figuring it out. But he doesn't find a turkey. Instead, he finds another little boy who was making the other turkey calls that he thought was a real life turkey.
Oh, no, that's impressive.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to backtrack slightly to note again about the depictions in this story.
Okay.
So again, it's from 1972. It's really the epitome of stereotypes happening and some like deeply like whitewashed propaganda. Again, TBD on how many photos we include in the YouTube side of things. We should talk about it.
We should offline. We'll have a convo.
But every depiction of any Native person is very generalized. It has no effort to like actually show this culture's like traditional dress or their culture in any way. It was just like, I guess like when you picture Native offensive stereotypes, it's that. Like,
gotcha.
It is that
textbook
this whole episode.
Okay.
Like
from the picture in that article that I sent you,
the crime scene.
The thumbnail of a crime scene. I'm getting some images.
Yes, exactly.
We'll talk offline about how many we'll copy in here.
Exactly. So, for example, and because the stereotype continues not just on physical depiction, but I will say also later, like voices of some of like the adults, and I
all voiced by white people.
Oh yeah, I would say I have no doubt about that. And also names. And of note here, I similarly am ignorant in like the Wampa Panoa like naming traditions or anything like that. But I have a feeling that this little boy's name was, just a classic. We're going to pull 2 words out of a hat and say that this child's name. This boy's name is Little Bear, which is a very cute name. But yes, I wanted to flag just that whole situation.
Yeah.
Leading up to this naming of this child.
Oh boy. Okay.
So just as a general flag, that is, I will say, the only. Like, these are the only names besides Jeremy, obviously, who we will get to eventually. Don't forget about the squirrel.
Gotcha.
Those are the only names we know this whole episode. I know, I almost did. Me too, honestly, while watching this.
You're like, oh, wait, shit, that's right. A squirrel saves the day.
Cool. So, Little Bear, who again is another like 8-year-old boy, has also similar like a little like toy bow and arrow. And him and Johnny, in perhaps the most accurate depiction in this whole show, immediately start arguing back and forth with each other.
Oh, nice.
They didn't just show up and immediately become besties because, again,
That's not how it
not
happened.
Whatever happened. Different peoples. But basically, they're arguing about how one ruined the other one's turkey call, and like their turkey hunt. And they start getting into who is the best hunter in these woods. Little Bear saying that he is the son of the chief and he is the greatest hunter. And Johnny saying that he is the greatest hunter because his dad is Francis Cook, who I guess we say his name too.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know.
Guess.
I Wikipedia'd him and it said nothing about being a good hunter. He was just like, I don't know, some dude.
He was just a person.
Anyway, yeah, I guess he survived that winter, which made him a fine hunter.
Well, yeah, that made him like a hero among them.
He didn't die.
It's like, you're our president now.
Welcome. Congrats. So as the fight continues, we see at last the first appearance of the true hero of this story, Jeremy the squirrel.
Yes.
Jeremy, who knows English, just like obviously Johnny, he's English, but apparently also Little Bear was forced to probably learn English by this time. Jumps down and breaks up the fight between the two boys. There's a lot of that happening in this episode.
Good. Yeah, I've honestly just been like laughing over here the entire, I don't know how long this episode has gone so far, but like I keep wiping tears out of my eyes because it's so painfully funny.
Yep. And so Jeremy breaks up the fight between the two boys, pointing out the woods are big enough for the both of them to be great hunters, and they should be friends because of this. So Johnny and Little Bear are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And because we know how trustworthy the white man's handshake was at the time, they shake hands on it and decide to both share the woods. So they become friends, and this is what they often do in their playtime is they go into the woods and play hunter together.
Okay.
So it's one day later that fall where they decide to go off in the woods again, leaving their mothers behind in the kitchen. Cooking away. But especially on this day, they're cooking a lot because there's something special going on over there in Plymouth. But the boys, their sisters probably have to stay home and cook. The boys are allowed to just go off into the woods and play hunter for the day. And instead of going after a turkey this time, they decide to go after one of the most dangerous creatures in these there woods, timber wolves.
Oh, whoa.
They're
slow down,
pretty
boys.
Confident in their hunting as 8-year-old boys.
Little Bear maybe, but this little Johnny Cook kid, he's about to get himself killed.
Yeah, he's shown that he's a bad hunter. He tried to jump on his prey. It ain't great. Also, with what weapons, boys?
The wooden gun, just hit the wolf across the head before it gets to you.
Yeah, so that's the plan apparently.
Cool.
But as they dash off into the woods, Jeremy catches sight of them and is like, "You guys are going after some fucking wolves?" Just jumps down and basically is like, yeah. Do not go so deep into the woods and do not go after wolves. What are you idiots doing?
Yeah.
But he's literally just a little squirrel, and these are some rambunctious 8-year-old boys who are stoked on playing hunter. So they pretty much just straight up ignore him and keep going deeper into the woods, chasing after what they think are wolf tracks.
What they think.
Mm-hmm. And so they are following these tracks and indeed keep going deeper and deeper into the darkening woods. Back in Plymouth Colony, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag tribes or peoples are just about to sit down to a friendly feast together, almost ready to celebrate what would become the first Thanksgiving. And as depicted by the show, it was simply a day of love, cooking and celebrating their friendship and the bounty that they had been able to harvest over the last year.
The allies, yeah.
But in reality, and I actually did not know this until I was Googling all of this. I was like, probably the first Thanksgiving is, I assume, just a made up thing and not how it happened. But I had never really fully looked into it. So the Pilgrims were indeed having a giant harvest feast to celebrate the bounty, which they learned how to cultivate because of the Wampanoags. Mm-hmm. But the native peoples weren't actually invited to the feast.
Fuck.
Instead, the Pilgrims were like straight up partying and like some frat bros shooting off some muskets or like guns. And a few of like the Wampanoags came over because they thought like the Pilgrims were under attack. And because they were like allied like other attacking anyone, they came over being like, are y'all okay? And that's when they got invited to join the party because again, frat boy Pilgrims were like, you're already here. Like, come on.
Come on in. Oh, I guess we have enough of your food here to share.
Exactly.
Wow, how
it's like
rude.
Kind of was like a frat party or like house party. You show up and like the host like kind of knows you, like wasn't expecting you, but they're like, yeah, we got a keg, like we got enough. Oh, you brought some beers? All right, dope, come on in. Because
I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, is this rude or actually was that like, okay, that was actually kind of, there's an argument there.
Yeah. Like they didn't like turn them away.
Why weren't they already invited? But then yes, they didn't turn them away when they came. They were like, no, we're fine. Go the fuck back.
Yeah, get out of here. I will say it was noted the Wampanoag people did bring like some deer over and some other food to the feast as well.
They're like, all right, let's turn this into a block party, guys.
Kind of became, block. Yes, that's a perfect description. Like it became a block party situation.
Nice. Cool.
But in the show, instead of that, both the Wampanoag and Pilgrim parents were simply so busy prepping for their bounty party that it's only when everyone was gathered to sit down at the table did they notice that two of their kids were just missing.
The moms were too busy cooking all day to look for them.
I'm sure the fathers blamed the women for losing track of the children.
And this food is cold. We lost our kids and you didn't even cook the food right. Well,
I'm only getting one
just,
turkey.
Their muskets off.
I know, just drunkenly like shooting shit into the air. So they put pause on the feast because indeed they were like, where the fuck are these kids? It's getting dark out. So like kind of rightfully they were like, these fucking kids, we should probably go find them, because they knew that these two boys loved playing in the woods. And so the parents, notably the men, because this is indeed where the scene where the women are like, but the woods are so scary, Francis. And Francis says, don't worry, we'll find them. And so all of the dads get torches and they're able to see the little boys' tracks heading very deep into the forest, which is rapidly growing darker by the minute since it is November in New England. So it's probably like 5 p.m., but it gets dark as hell there early.
Yeah.
So again, women left behind. Basically, I just want to note that essentially this conversation must have been like, look. I know you just spent all day cooking. I don't care. Wrap up the food. We're going to let it get cold. I'm going to go find these kids. Don't eat while I'm gone.
I have no idea when we'll be back. I hope you're not hungry.
Yeah. Keep it warm. Don't eat any of this while we're gone. Thanks. Bye. So the men leave to go find the boys.
They're so scary.
In reality, I think the women were like, I just spent fucking 12 hours cooking. I'm not allowed to eat this shit now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great.
Like you can go eat something else. Go pick something else and eat that in the meantime.
Make something else, but not this feast meant for us.
Yeah.
So by this point, the two literal children who thought they could track down timber wolves and survive kind of stop and they look at each other. They look at the ground, noticing that there's no tracks anywhere anymore. They look up at the moon that's fully risen and realize they're lost as fuck in these woods. They're like, okay, which way should we take? And they both point in different directions. So they are not off to any type of good. They weren't off to a good start, but they're even worse off now.
That would actually be terrifying too.
Yes, as someone who has gotten lost in various situations before, that would be scary, but also more so of like, this is the 1600s and like already the woods of New England are very thick, but like even more so back then, like you probably can
nothing. Yeah,
exactly. Like, you ain't seen shit in these woods, especially if you've just been thinking you're following tracks and then lost the tracks. You are deep in there. Yeah. But luckily they're able to hear a river nearby and kind of make their way to the river, putting together that like, okay, we know that there's a river near Plymouth and like the settlement. So like if we follow the river, we'll probably make it back home. And for some reason in, I guess, 8-year-old boy thinking, instead of saying like, let's just follow the banks of the river, down or up, whatever way we think we need to go, we got to go apparently the way the current is going. And the best way to do that is just hop on a log and ride it as like a little canoe, this rushing river. Because that makes sense instead of just, again, following the bank. I guess they were like, it'll save time.
Yeah, it's faster.
It's faster. Yeah, maybe they thought they were being efficient. I'm not sure. But yes, they decide. Yeah, they both sit on the log, and yeah, they're using like their little weapons as like little paddles, even though again, it's like a very quickly rushing river. And at this point, I guess it like took them some time to find the river and also to like find a log that could handle both of their weight. So at this point, Jeremy has finally caught up to them, but sees them going towards like, downriver and is yelling from the shore, "That's not the direction of the settlement." But of course, the roaring river.
Wise Jeremy.
They can't hear the little squirrel squeaking on the side of the banks. And even more so, they can't hear Jeremy shouting that direction of the river goes directly to a waterfall.
Of course.
Of course.
It always does.
It always does. And something else that these literal children didn't realize as they went deeper and deeper into the forest is that they indeed were not the trackers. Instead, they were the ones being tracked by the timber wolves, who are ready to have a Thanksgiving feast of their own that night. But instead of turkey on the table, they're ready to have little boys.
Yikes. Tables just turned.
That's
a plot twist. I was not expecting that. Yeah, literally. I was not expecting that though. Wow. So these are like sentient timber wolves.
I mean, they see like, wolves know what to track, and it's like always go for the weakest of the pack. Like that's how like they track like bison is find the weakest one. And like bison are like so much bigger than them, but they find the weak one. They like center it off and go for it. So in reality, this is like the equivalent of like Hot Pockets for them. Like this is easy cooking. They're not making a pizza
popping in the microwave.
Scratch.
You gotta wait though. It's gonna burn. It's gonna be cold on the out or the inside, but it'll burn you on the
outside. Always. I guess it's an easy meal.
Yes. So I guess for me, because Jeremy can talk, I have to remember he is the only talking animal in this, right? Okay. Yeah. So for me, because he can talk, in my mind, I'm imagining like a crowd of timber wolves getting together, like, you see those kids out there and like talking and like planning this meal. So I was like, wait, is there like a herd of, what do you call it? A
pack.
Whatever. A pack. Thank you. A pack of timber wolves like conspiring behind the scenes here. But no,
I mean,
yeah.
Oh no, I think that like,
tracking kids.
Yeah, I think they like saw them and being like, this is an easy fucking meal. To the point where like they just like literally send like one or two of the wolves off to go get them because they know that these children do not have weapons.
Yes.
I've probably been tracking them for a while when they, kids started just like walking through the woods pretty loudly, probably because they were 8. And they were just like, okay, we'll just like keep track of them for a little bit. And then just, you got to make sure that the dinner you bring over lines up with the stuffing and the rolls at the exact same moment. So don't kill them too early. So like they're still fresh and warm and toasty. Right. And it's with these hungry wolves tracking the little boys, the lost boys approaching the vast waterfall, the men looking for their children, and a little squirrel yelling on the banks of the river, and a feast growing cold, that we will end this episode today with this almost literal cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. How dare you with that excellent pun. Amazing.
With more to come next week.
Wow. I cannot wait.
Briefly, my sources were, of course, Wikipedia, an Atlantic article by David J. Silverman called in 1621, the Wampanoag tribe had its own agenda. A Washpo piece by Dana Hedgepeth called "This Tribe Helped Pilgrims Survive Their First Thanksgiving. They Still Regret It 400 Years Later." And the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe's website, which is one of the tribes in the Wampanoag Nation. And with that, we will continue on with how the first Thanksgiving was potentially saved by Jeremy, a squirrel, and further crimes of the Pilgrims peoples next week.
Wonderful.
There you go.
I love it.
Ta-da! Yes.
I was going to say, should they tell anyone between now and next week?
Yes, between now and next week. Who should they tell? Who should they spread the word to?
Well, I think you should all go out and find a squirrel. Tell a squirrel.
Good.
Tell a squirrel. They're wiser than we think. And this movie, this little Thanksgiving special is proving it. I don't know if the squirrel will watch our podcast, but like go and just get in touch with nature and befriend a squirrel and be like, hey, by the way, you're gonna look super fucking crazy when you do it. Just do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Great. After
should they tell?
You tell the squirrel, I think wherever you're getting if you celebrate Thanksgiving, again, in our now celebratory day of just getting family and friends together and having delicious food, wherever you're getting your turkey from, if you eat turkey or whatever your main dish of your Thanksgiving feast would be, tell whoever you're buying it from. Justin and I get it from local farm out here, and we love to go before all of the turkeys are killed and try and pick out which one's going to be ours, we hope, and be like, oh, we hope it's that one. We hope it's that one, and they're all just gobbling around the farm. So
like having no clue what's going on.
But we see them living happy little lives, and we like to try and pick one out. So we'll tell the people we get it from, and we hope you do the same.
Wonderful.
And until next week, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on. So just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves. And let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.